guys, how's it going? Welcome to episode 2 of the Meta Meltdown. Today is Wednesday, May 18th, 2016. The Meta Meltdown is a weekly 20-minute podcast about the current meta in Hearthstone. Each week we'll focus on a specific deck. This week in particular we're focusing on Tempo Warrior, and we'll provide you insights on how to pilot the deck in order to succeed on the ladder. My name is Dominic Silverddragn Nguyen. That's Silverddragn with 2 Ds and no O. I'm joined here by Nate Wolter, aka Natediggity. How's it going?
How's it going, Dom?
Doing well, doing well. Thank you for asking. Really appreciate that. In this week's episode, we're going to break down some personal Hearthstone news, go through the meta report, and then we'll finish off by reviewing Sjow's Tempo Warrior. So, going into personal Hearthstone news, Nate, what kind of decks did you play this week?
Well, I started obviously with Temple Warrior since we'll be reviewing that today.
Yep.
Then I also dabbled in some Elise Warrior, Znoth Priest, and Reno Lock primarily. How about yourself?
So this week, I also played the Temple Warrior. That's all I played on ladder. But I also played the Wild Znoth Pally, Wild Reno, and Wild Freeze because I was prepping for this tournament that we had last Friday at Riverside. And it was a wild format, so I only played wild decks. And I actually won that, so doing really well in the wild format. But yeah, so that's actually my report for my out-of-game Hearthstone activities. What about you?
I actually played in a Monday night Fireside as well at the Esports Arena in Santa Ana.
Nice.
Took top 8.
There you go.
Yeah, so I didn't win any money, but still made the top 8 playoffs. I think there were about 40 people there. And actually ended up losing to J. Billy B, who took top 4 at DreamHack.
Oh, nice.
So,
okay, so
I didn't feel too bad.
Yeah, no shame. No shame in losing to that kind of.
I took
player.
1 game from him out of 3.
There you go. What deck got you the win?
I believe it was my Control Warrior. I was up 1-0, and then he reverse swept me. So
got it. That's unfortunate.
It happens.
Yeah. No worries. Okay, so let's go into our meta report. I have here Tempo Storm's list. This week they've got the Aggro Shaman in Tier 1, Miracle Rogue, Znoth Paladin, Tempo Warrior, so we totally predicted Tempo Warrior last week, and Midrange Shaman. So they've moved Midrange Shaman from Tier 2 to Tier 1 this week, and that's the first deck we reviewed together, and so that's why, yeah, we're a little ahead of the curve, which I really appreciate. Yeah, it's good.
Tempo Warrior wasn't even on any of the tiers.
I know, right?
Last week.
Crazy.
Totally call that geniuses.
Geniuses. But, so what I'm hearing, Nate, is that you are a little bit more of a genius than I may be. So you have your own top 5?
I have a top 5. It's a little bit similar to what Temple Storm has. Number 5, Miracle Rogue. Just with all of the slower decks now, because everyone's trying to counter Zoo, which I haven't seen Zoo in maybe like a week.
You're right. Exactly.
So Miracle Rogue's in a good spot again. Temple Warrior, which is what we're reviewing today. We'll discuss a little bit more about that soon.
Yep.
The Znoth Paladin, it's a very diverse deck. It's really frustrating to play against. That's why I typically ban it if I see it in a tournament. I don't know if it's just lazy, but anyway. Number 2, Aggro Shaman. If you get the cards and you get a good curve, it's very hard to lose, even against the best decks. And are you holding on to your seat for this top deck?
Yeah, you've named all the other popular decks. So what's this one?
The top deck, in the opinion of Natediggity, is Znoth Priest.
Znoth Priest.
Znoth Priest.
All right. So you've built this up. Tell me why Znoth Priest, and also telling everyone that we're doing Znoth Priest next week, aren't we?
Yes, that will be next week.
Dope. I like it.
I think it has to be if I'm going to claim it's number 1. But
okay.
It's just got so many weapons in its arsenal. You have Hawkeye Circle of Healing. You have Wild Pyromancer with all of its different clearing tactics. You have Holy Novas. You have Excavate Evils. You have Entombs. You have other hard removal like Shadow Word Pain, Shadow Word Death. So you can really piss off your opponent just by constantly clearing the board. And then when you do get the initiative, Then you can play Sylvanas, you can play Karen, you can play Znoth. So it's
Yeah.
awesome deck. And even if you're playing against, let's say, N'Zoth Pally, you can just entomb their N'Zoth, and then you can play it again.
Ah, I see. That's really smart.
It's pretty sick list, and I'm looking forward to next week talk about it, and we'll see if that moves up in everyone else's tier list.
All right, sounds good. I'm sure you're right, so
We'll
we'll be all
see.
right there. Yeah. Okay, so I really like that. Let's move on to the deck that we're reviewing this week. This week we're reviewing the tempo list, as you can see on YouTube on our right hand side. We're gonna go through with Shjow's deck. I believe he was the first one who really popularized Tempo Warrior, and he is actually the #1 legend on NA and EU with this deck. And so since people have been kind of toying with it, playing around with it, and a lot of people have been bringing Tempo Warrior to the EU prelims last weekend as well. And
Yeah,
yeah, go ahead.
definitely. There was over 20% of the decks
Mhm.
were over 20%. Yeah, of the decks brought Temple Warrior last weekend, so very popular.
Mhm.
And then 4 of the top 8 players in the EU prelims had Temple Warrior, so it's in a very good spot right now. I think it's mainly because Shaman's so popular, and it just crushes Shaman.
Yeah, definitely. So that's kind of funny because we just play the counter deck every week. But all right, cool. So what's in Shjow's Tempo Warrior deck, Nate?
All right, so quick rundown. We have 2 Blood Acres, 2 Executes, 1 Whirlwind, 2 Fiery Wind Axes, 2 Battle Rages, 2 Slams, 2 Armorsmith, 2 Acolyte of Pain, 2 Fierce Monkeys, 2 Frothing Berserkers, 2 Ravaging Ghouls, 1 Arathi Weaponsmith, 1 Bloodhoof Brave, 2 Corcoran Elites, 1 Cairn, 1 Malkarok, 1 Gramash Hellscream, 1 Ragnaros the Firelord, and 1 Arc Thief Rafam.
I like it. Oh, not as much as I like my own deck, but
No
yeah,
bias.
a little biased. I made some adjustments to Shjow's deck, which you should be doing at any stage of the ladder, not just net decking blindly, but of course making some adjustments as you see fit. Um, but yeah, let's go through Shjow's deck, and then we can talk about all the little changes that you or I made. So with this deck, you're looking to do what, Nate?
Well, basically you want to control the board, and then whenever you think you have the initiative or good advantage, you just want to flip the switch and start going face. It's a Temple Warrior, so obviously that's kind of the objective of the deck, is to just control for a little while, draw some cards with your Battle Rages and Acolytes of Pain, and then just punish your opponent with your late game cards, if not sooner. So, how did you do with the deck this week when you played it down?
So I'm typically more of a control type of player, unless I know I'm specifically playing aggro and I just go for the face. But with Warrior, since I'm so used to playing Control Warrior, initially when I started playing this deck, I feel like I didn't do so well, just because I was clearing the board every turn, even on turn like 8, 9, 10, and I was really falling behind and not winning like any matches. But then as soon as I realized and looked at the deck list and said, okay, turns 1, 2, 3, gonna start dropping either my armor smiths or my acolytes, and clearing the board with fiery wind axe. Turns 4, 5, 6. I have to start looking at when I want to flip the switch, like you said, start going for the face and having them deal with my minions. Because in the later stages of the match, 7, 8, 9, 10, even you've got a ton of big burst, either with Grom, Hellscream, Rag, and in my case, I've got Varian. But you've got an Archthief Rafam if you're playing Shjow's version. So I feel like I would notice that I would get my opponents down to like 10 or like 12 or whatever, really low numbers, but then I couldn't finish the game off because I was clearing the board as opposed to going for face. So I think that's definitely something you have to really recognize about the deck, is that um, you kind of just have to know when. You kind of have to feel it out after you play a couple games. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. There's really no magical formula to this deck. Everyone has to sort of pilot it for themselves and just
Mhm.
sort of, you'll get that feeling once you play it enough that, okay, it's I'm not going to have a win condition if I don't start going face. So it's
Right.
kind of like a lot of other decks, except it's a slower tempo style.
Yeah. So I mean, you knew that before I did. So how did you do with the deck?
I don't have any stats like I did last week just
Mhm.
because I didn't have access to my main desktop, so I played a lot on my phone and tablet. I think I did pretty good. I believe I climbed from about 7 to 5
There
and
you
a couple
go.
stars, and then I started messing around with some other decks before I played a tournament on Monday. So pretty good. I really enjoyed the deck. Definitely, I don't think it's my best deck by far, although a lot of people have really enjoyed playing this. I saw a ton of people play it in the tournament I played in on Monday. So I typically ban it just because it is so powerful.
Okay. Well, sounds good. Um, yeah. I mean, I've only seen it a couple times on ladder, but it does really well as long as you are piloting it correctly. So yeah, let's go into the different types of cards. So, are there any cards in particular that you see stand out in Show's list?
Yes, there's a couple actually, and not really necessarily that they stand out due to excellent performance, just that you typically don't see them in a warrior.
Mhm.
First one I'd like to bring up is Arathi Weaponsmith. So it's a 3/3, and then it gives you a 2/2 weapon.
Right.
So due to the loss of, um, help me out, what's the name of that 4-mana axe?
Let me see if I can find it.
Wow, drawing a complete blank right now.
I know exactly what you're talking about. It's like the 4 mana. God,
Death's Bite. Sorry.
Death's Bite. There you go.
Death's Bite, yeah. So with the loss of Death's Bite, it's definitely a good fit for a tempo style deck like this. So you can still put a 3/3 on the board as well get a 2/2 weapon. So
Mhm.
interesting card that I do like. I love Melkarok as well. Same theory, except it's a random weapon.
Mhm.
And most of the time, it's going to do real well for you. Except when you do get the Cursed Blade, and then you then you hate Melkarok, and then you disenchant him.
You have a golden Malkrok too, so
No, I didn't disenchant him. I'm kidding. But I've thought about it. That's happened a couple times, but it's pretty low chance. I believe the calculation was 3.8% that you can get a Cursed Blade, but other than that, it's typically excellent value.
yeah.
How about you, Dom? Any specific cards that you really liked in this deck?
I wouldn't say like. I think a couple cards that I didn't particularly enjoy as much are Arc Thief Reform. I feel like the card's a little bit too slow for the deck. I swapped him out for Varian Worm, or Wim, or however you say that.
Ren, yeah.
Yeah, but I think Varian is like much better. A lot more tempo focused. Arch Thief is more slow. You gotta play him on 9, and then you have a turn 10 to play. So you really have to commit to him for 2 turns. I feel like that's just not fast enough in this deck. Um, I also didn't want to craft Malkarok, so for those of you who don't have as many legendaries as Nate over here does, then you can go ahead and fit that in with the Gorehowl. Make sure you get the best weapon in the game every time. And
Naturally.
yeah, and I found out because the decks were so slow, I swapped out my Karn for Sylvanas, and that's been doing me a little bit of favors as well. It makes people's turns super awkward, um, and that's why I have Sylvanas in there. And yeah, I mean, for the most part, every other card is the same in my deck. Yeah, I really appreciate the Arathi Weaponsmith. It does a lot of work, I feel like.
Yeah, I like your tech choices as well. I think Varian is a really good one, and I think Tice put that in his deck for the EU prelims.
Hmm.
It's just so good because you have 3 different charges that you can utilize right away if you haven't already drawn them and played them, of course. And then obviously you can get card draw, and or you can also get some taunts to protect your Varian or face. So it's got
Yes.
a ton of potential. So I really like that choice.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it. All right, so let's assume that we're playing with Show's deck. What kind of cards are we looking for against aggro decks on the ladder?
Typically, you're going to be looking for the Fiery Wind Axe, of course, just so good at clearing out those pesky little minions. Armor Smith is really good at trading with the 4 body that it has. Ravaging Ghoul is good AoE. Slam, it's kind of iffy depending on what you're playing. I think if you know that you're going to be playing the Zulok, Slam is good to clear out minions like Flame Imp and Knife Juggler. Acolyte's typically good, Acolyte of Pain, and then Blood to Ichor can be good if you can play down one of your own minions, or just hit their minion for 1 and then get a 2/2. And then Whirlwind, of course.
Yeah.
So, what do you think we would want to keep for control matchups, Dom?
So I feel like this deck, because of the way it's played, you're really looking to play on curve a lot more, especially in the control matchup, because you have to go phase, and switch on a little bit earlier than you do in the aggro matchup, because you are letting them take care of your minions as opposed to taking care of theirs. So you're still looking for that fiery wind axe, but you really want to get a bunch of early game drops, like Armor Smith, Acolyte of Pain, and then damage them and use Battle Rage to get to your mid game a little bit faster. Any 3-drop's really good too. Fierce Monkey is really good. Frothing Berserker is a huge win condition if you can get off a nice Whirlwind or Ravaging Ghoul. And yeah, after that you're just placing things on the field and going face. So, and you're hoping that they can't control your tempo.
Yeah, if they can't start to deal with a few of your creatures, and you can start playing like Karen, who's pain in the ass to remove, and then Malkarak, who's 2 for 1 essentially, and then Ragnaros, of course. I mean, this deck can just spiral out of control and just crush your opponents.
Absolutely.
Any particular matchups that you find to be favorable or unfavorable?
That's a good question. I feel like since you did better with the deck, you actually should answer this question. Because I felt like when I finally started understanding the deck, it didn't really matter for the most part. I was just crushing people, but I'm like much higher. And by higher I mean lower on the ladder than you are. So how do you feel? What do you feel like are the better matchups and what are the worst matchups?
Yeah, what I experienced is that this deck crushes Shaman. That's why it's so good right now.
Right.
Crushes Zulok, which we don't even see anymore. People have just pretty much given up from where I'm at the ladder. Like I said, I haven't seen it in at least a good week, which is crazy considering that's all that we saw for the first couple weeks of release.
Yeah, I feel like the community it's like the same way Hunter and Secret Paladin used to be. It's like, alright, everyone play this deck, it's gonna get you to Legend. And then if you don't make it in the first like 1 or 2 weeks, you're like, alright, this deck sucks. Like, let's all just play like Control now. Like, the community just like bands together and just doesn't play Zoo.
Yeah, I didn't get the memo, so I kind of had to find out myself, I guess. What other popular decks here? So it's pretty good against, like I said, Shaman, Freeze Mage, obviously, because you can armor up, but it's kind of questionable. Any sort of like aggro mid-rangey deck, it's pretty good. And then once you start facing some of the control decks, like Znoth Paladin and Znoth Priest,
Yeah.
those can be kind of iffy.
Right.
So typically for this matchup, again, you're just, to sum it up, you're going to be looking for Shamans or other aggro mid-rangey decks to really dominate.
Makes sense, makes sense. Alright, so that's basically it for our Meta Meltdown. You can find the deck list and any previous shows, including this one, at metameltdown.com. And you can find us on our, like I said, our website, metameltdown.com, our Twitter at the Meta Meltdown, our YouTube is Meta Meltdown, and our email is metameltdownpodcast@gmail.com. Where can I find you if I'm looking for you though, Nate?
You can hit me up on Twitter anytime if you have any questions at all at Natediggity7.
Perfect.
How about you, Dom?
You can find me at Silverddragn on Twitter. That's Silver double D's RAGN. There's no O. But yeah, tune
Crazy
in.
spelling.
I know. It was given to me. The name was given to me, so I just kind of owned it after that. But yeah, tune in next week, guys. Thank you everyone for listening, and we'll be back next Wednesday.